Hey everybody, welcome to today's Guitar Tips. Today we're going to talk a little bit about open tuning. There's a variety of kinds of open tuning you can use. Today I'm going to talk specifically about tuning to an open chord. So I have this guitar tuned to an open E, which means that when I strum the strings, you get an E chord. Major chord. You could have tune it down to an open D chord, even farther if like Joey Landreth or Mike Henderson there in Nashville, like drop C, which is super low. You'd have to have some pretty heavy strings to make that one work. But all those chords work the same. What you're doing is you're retuning the guitar from low E string would be the root, and if you drop it down to D, well, that would be a D then. And then a fifth, and a root, and a third, another fifth, another root. So in the key of E, that's E, B, E, G sharp, B, and E. And you can look up the notes if you don't know them for how to make a D and a C. It's the same formula. So this gets used in a lot of different ways. I use open tunings. The question I got was, could you do something about open tunings and how are they used? So I use open tunings a lot when I play slide, sometimes. I guess more I'm sort of going towards just standard these days, but it's great because you can just lay the slide across the strings, right? Whoops. And you get your chord, right? But today we're not talking about slide. I was just going to talk about chord shapes and a bit how open tunings can be useful. So I was going to use Big Yellow Taxi, Joni Mitchell, as an example tune, and then show you some chord voicings as well that are just major and minor and dominant chords and stuff. So Big Yellow Taxi starts in E. Now sometimes I've looked online, you'll see it as a drop D tuning with a capo at the 2nd fret. It doesn't make any sense to me because it would be drop D sharp, it's E. So it's open E tuning. Weird. Okay, so anyways, it starts with an E, and then they're just going to make this shape that looks like an E7, right? So this is the A string and the G string together, and everything else is open. It's a nice suspended E sus chord. And they use that as sort of like, almost like a boogie woogie, but with the whole chord. That kind of sound. I won't get the rhythm quite right, so just bear with me. The other two parts, well, there's two other parts that sort of coincide with that, or go with it, rather. One is this is an A major chord. Because of our tuning now, an A major chord is just a flat bar across the strings. And again, we're going to add this little boogie woogie thing by adding the A string 2 frets higher. We're still going to strum, we're not just going to strum these 2 strings. We're going to get a little messy and get more. So you get, and then move it up to B. Right? So. Right? Hope that's clear. This would be an A major, this would sort of be an A6, you might call it. Not a great name for it, but... then you get to that little bridge section that don't always go to show, or I don't know if the words are... Here I have the 5th fret, which isn't a D anymore, right? That is an E now, and then the 3rd fret, and the rest is open. Cool chord. And then I'm going to drop my bass note. Also a cool chord. Then I'm going to drop that whole shape because that is that 2nd chord shape we had before. And then down to E. That's the tones. And then. So that's something you can try in open tuning. I'm just going to give you a couple quick chord shapes. So as we saw, major, and this is your root. So A major. How do I make that minor? Well, that's the 3rd, the G string. I need to flatten it. So I found that fingering that works for me is my pinky's on the B string. This is my third finger's on the D string, and then I'm going to skip the A string and take my root. So, oops, what's going on here? Right, there's my minor chord. If I wanted to make a 7 chord, like a dominant 7th chord, which is pretty useful, I want to have my major third back, so I'm going to put this back on major third, and I'm going to take my first finger, and I'm going to flatten the 7. Oops, that's a major 7. There's a 7. That'd be a major 7. So there's some useful chords. So major 7, 7, minor, and major, all played in open tuning. So you can play around with those and experiment. Just take shapes and move them sometimes. No, that's not so great. But anyways, you get the idea. A little experimentation, and you can find some pretty interesting things you can do with them. Hope that's helpful, and I'll see you tomorrow.